I've been sitting here for a while, trying to decide how honest I want to be. Because it's one thing to talk about nutrition and health and ingredients and habits and sleep and movement. And it's another thing to tell complete strangers on the internet the thoughts that still wake me up at night. And I think that's the conversation we're going to have today. If we've never met before, my name is Rebecca. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm a wife, a mom, a nutritionist. I love making homemade bread. I enjoy gardening. I'm feeling really proud of my current little tiny garden I've got going on. I enjoy hosting a Bible study that my husband teaches and I cook, and it's so much fun getting together with friends and just filling the kitchen with the people that I love. And for almost 20 years, I have also lived with multiple sclerosis. Yeah, I guess a little bit over 20 years now, but diagnosed about 20. Most people don't know when they meet me that I'm struggling with an autoimmune disease. They see someone that's smiling and walking through the grocery store and carrying bags and talking with friends after church and just living an ordinary life. And maybe that's why I wanted to make this video, because invisible struggles have a way of making us feel at times like we're invisible too. Like people aren't really seeing us, that people are seeing the version of us that made it out the front door. They don't see the conversations that happened before we even got there. And they don't see the 10 minutes that might have been spent just sitting in the driveway trying to work up the energy to go inside. And they don't see the fear that quietly follows us through. I mean, it's just me, perfectly ordinary days. Maybe you know that feeling too. Maybe your diagnosis has a different name. Maybe you're simply exhausted and nobody can explain why. That could be just as hard. Maybe you've been carrying something for a long time, so long that you've forgotten what it felt like before you even picked it up. If that's you, I'm really glad that you're here. And it's not because I have all the answers. I don't. I wish I did. I'm not here to promise a miracle. I'm not here to tell you that I found the perfect protocol. Don't leave, but listen, because I'm being honest. Life has taught me just too much humility to claim that there's one magic solution and that I found it. I haven't. It doesn't exist. That being said, I'm here because 20 years ago, I walked into a neurologist's office expecting information. And I walked out believing that my story had already been written. And I still remember the appointment. And it's amazing what fear allows your mind to remember. My mom was sitting with me. She had come. My daughter wasn't even a year old. And the neurologist, pulled up the scans for the MRI on the computer and tried to start explaining, this is your brain. The bright white areas, one after another. Then she pulled out another image, because they take more than one. And she explained that this one is my spine and more little white patches. She explained that they're lesions, and that there's inflammation happening. And words I didn't really fully understand what they meant at the time, but were suddenly becoming part of my everyday life. She explained where they were located. I kind of point like that matters. They're so microscopic, but she showed me on the image and she explained what she expected to happen based on my personal results. And she explained that I needed to prepare myself and my family for disability and significant disability. Now, I don't remember every medical term that she used, and I mean, I remember my version of what was said and what was told to me, but there is kind of a blur that can happen around those types of appointments. I remember how my body felt, though. I remember that fear, like all the air from the room had just disappeared for a moment. I was only 20, 21 years old. I was so young. And instead of wondering what the next 20 years would hold, I started grieving the loss of what I believed that 20 years was destined to be. And I wondered if my daughter would someday have to take care of me. And I wondered if I would remember birthdays because MS can affect memory. And I wondered names, if I could remember names too, that's a big one. And I wondered simply if the dreams that I had were quietly disappearing around me while I sat in that chair. My fear is so remarkable. It can create an entire future within seconds. And for years, I believed the future that that fear had created was inevitable. I searched for answers everywhere. Doctors, I met with doctors and I went the typical routes, but I read books and articles and I met with experts and people from a more holistic nutritional perspective and then those with an official, neurologist, doctorate degree with all of the experience. I looked into supplements and diets and different studies that had been done. I considered getting involved in a couple. If someone sounded confident, I listened, which can be a little bit not always the best idea, but I did because I wanted someone to hand me a checklist and say, do these things, ABC 1, 2, 3, just like this, and you'll be okay, right? Maybe you've looked for that checklist too. Maybe you've spent more money than you want to admit. Maybe you've spent time, energy, money. You've stayed awake late at night just reading one more article, one more study, one more just what if, just looking and hoping that this could finally explain why you don't feel like yourself, right? I've done it. Have you done it? Probably. If you're dealing with autoimmune disease or someone you love is, or even think that you might be, you've probably done this. I understand because I spent years trying to fight my body. And one day, I realized I had been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, how do I fix my body? I quietly asked, what if my body has been trying to tell me something all along? And I just haven't been listening. That question changed everything, not overnight and not dramatically, let's be realistic, but slowly, the awareness. One ordinary day at a time, I've realized that my body isn't a project I'm trying to finish. It's the place where I get to live. I'm in here, right? I'm not AI. I'm a real person. I live inside of this body. And once I stopped treating it, my body, that is, like an enemy, I started to listen instead of argue. And I began nourishing instead of punishing. And I began noticing instead of only feeling fear. I stopped chasing perfection and I started to pay attention The funny thing is, the older I get, the less interested that I become in secrets. The internet loves secrets. The one food, the one supplement, the one habit, the one morning routine. If you just, no. But if life just keeps teaching me something quieter and more realistic than that if you just thing that doesn't exist, healing often looks very ordinary. It looks like drinking more water, going to bed a little earlier, walking outside, making soup, calling your mom, laughing with your kids, taking one deep breath before answering another email. Those moments, they don't look impressive. I know they don't. And they don't go viral. I've been trying to go viral, blow up my channel, get millions of views. But the problem is, I don't have a magic secret because there isn't one. But I've started to believe that quietly we can build a beautiful life, one ordinary day at a time, one healthy choice at a time. I used to think health was something I would eventually achieve. Like one day I would wake up, eat perfectly, sleep perfectly, manage stress perfectly, take every supplement on schedule perfectly at exactly the right time, and finally become the version of me that I have been chasing. Maybe you felt that way too? Like your life is waiting for you on the other side of better lab work, better energy, better habits, better discipline, better health, better. But somewhere along the way, I realized that I was just postponing my own life. I was waiting to enjoy today until I felt better tomorrow. And fear quietly stole years from me that way. Not because multiple sclerosis took them, because I gave them away. I would be making dinner while worrying about 20 years from now. I still catch myself doing it. So I'm not pretending that I am now worry free, but I would do it more often, almost to a detrimental point. I would be watching my children play while imagining a future where I couldn't. I would be sitting in church listening to beautiful words while my mind was rehearsing worst case scenarios. My body was sitting in one place. My thoughts were living somewhere else. And I missed moments that I'll never get back. One afternoon, I was standing in my kitchen making bread. Nothing extraordinary, just flour on the counter and a bowl sitting next to me and the KitchenAid's all messy and the smell of yeast. And one of my daughters was talking to me, really talking and telling me about her day. And I realized as she paused for a response that I hadn't heard a single word. I had been nodding and I had smiled, I think, a couple times. And I probably answered something like, yeah, okay, yeah. But I wasn't paying attention because fear had carried me 20 years into the future again. And I stood there looking at that bowl of dough and thought, if I spend my entire life preparing to lose these moments, I'm going to lose them anyways. Not because of multiple sclerosis, but because I wasn't present enough to receive them. That realization hurt. Like it did. Like to recognize I am disabling myself with fear while still standing in my kitchen. And that realization hurt. But it also set me free because I understood something that I wish I had known at 20, 21 years old, that fear is a terrible fortune teller. It really is. It speaks with incredible confidence. But it has been wrong about my life more times than I can count. Fear told me I wouldn't raise my children. Fear even told me my children wouldn't even be raisable because of so many health predictions that I received and so many fears while pregnant. And I've still gotten to watch them grow. Fear told me I wouldn't enjoy an ordinary life, but some of my favorite memories are completely ordinary. Fear told me every symptom was the beginning of the end. But instead, many of those days simply became another Tuesday, right? Just like today. I've started paying attention to ordinary beauty, fresh herbs growing right outside my front porch, the smell of bread cooling on the counter, sunlight coming through the windows, seeping into the living room in the afternoon, kids laughing, teasing each other, teenagers just being so ornery. You know they are. They're all so silly. And my husband walking through the door after work, the sound of pages turning when I'm able to read my scriptures. Things I used to rush past, things that now feel sacred. And maybe that's what illness teaches us when we're willing to listen. Not just that life is fragile, but that life can be beautiful. And I think we've forgotten that ordinary life is actually extraordinary. We chase vacations and milestones and promotions and big moments. And meanwhile, our actual lives are happening while we're making dinner, driving to football practice, folding towels, pulling weeds from the garden, walking the dog, sitting on the porch as the sun goes down. Those aren't interruptions. Those are our lives. And I've also realized something unforgettable and uncomfortable, that sometimes fear disguises itself as discipline. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we're being healthy when we're actually just afraid. And we have to get past that. We need to recognize if we're afraid to rest, afraid to eat, afraid to slow down, afraid to disappoint people, afraid that one wrong decision will undo everything. I've had to learn the difference. And if I'm being honest, I'm still learning because healing, it's not a destination that I've reached. It's a relationship that I'm still building every day, like one ordinary day at a time. People sometimes ask me what I eat, what supplements I take, what
I didn't
routines.
get that. Could you try again?
I don't know why she's talking to me. It's my, go away, Siri. Go on. Sorry, it's just my phone. So let me go back to you. I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was just saying, like it's one ordinary day at a time. And when people are asking me, like in an ordinary day for me, what I eat or what supplements I take or routines I follow, I I understand the question because I've asked myself the question, but I don't have a set answer. Because if I sat across from someone at the kitchen table and they said, Rebecca, what's changed your life the most? I don't know what my answer would be. Honestly, just a couple days ago, I think it was just this last Sunday at Bible study, there's a couple of missionaries that are serving in our area, teaching and serving, and they're on their mission. And they said to me, "You're a nutritionist, right? You know about nutrition." And I said, "Yes." his question was, "What do you think is the best thing we could do to be healthy?" And honestly, I told them, "Try to reduce sugar, try to drink more water, try to get healthy amount of rest." I I think if I was sitting across from you, I would say this. I've stopped waking up every morning assuming my body is working against me. I've started believing that my body has carried me faithfully through a lot of really difficult days. And it's carried me through pregnancy, through sleepless nights, through a baby that didn't sleep until he was 4 years old. 4 years straight without a full night's sleep. My body has carried me through those sleepless nights, through grief, fear, joy, doctor's appointments, family dinners, church pews, where I felt encouragement and hope, and also the same pews where I felt discouraged and broken and sinful. My body's carried me through long walks and quiet prayers. This body has been carrying my story all along. And maybe it deserves more kindness than criticism. If that's true for me, I'm confident it's true for you too. I don't always get it right. Some days I still become frustrated. I still become discouraged. And some days I still wonder if today's fatigue means something bigger. Some days I still feel afraid. But now, instead of immediately asking, "What's wrong with me?" I try to ask, "What do I need today?" Sometimes the answer is protein. Sometimes it's water. Sometimes it's sleep. Sometimes it's movement. Sometimes it's sunlight or being outside and do some grounding. Sometimes it might be a conversation with somebody that I trust and love. Sometimes it's stepping away from the screen, detaching from electronics. And sometimes it's just sitting on the porch with my family and remembering that nothing on my to-do list is more important than the people sitting around me. That question about what can I do, what one thing, it changes the way that I live. Not because there is one answer, but because there's dozens of answers. And it doesn't make it easier. It's not because life becomes easier, but because it can become gentler. We can be kinder to ourselves, be more gentle with my body, my expectations, my mistakes, with just myself in general. And maybe that's where healing begins. It's not with perfection, but with compassion. Can I tell you something that has taken me almost 20 years to understand? I don't think my body has ever been asking me to become perfect. I think it's been asking me to pay attention. There's a difference. Perfection is exhausting. Attention is gentle. Perfection says if you miss one day, you failed. You're done. You're out. Attention says that didn't feel very good. Let's try something different tomorrow. Perfection creates shame, but attention creates wisdom. And shame has never helped me make a single healthy decision. Shame makes me hide. Shame makes me quit. Shame makes me believe there's no point in trying. But grace does something completely different. Grace invites me and you to begin again. I've wondered before, if God gets tired of watching me start over, then I think about the way I look at my own children, and I don't love them more when they make perfect choices. I'm happy for them when they make good choices, but I don't love them more or less. I don't become disappointed because they need another chance. Honestly, I'm happy when they recognize that they need to do it again, that they need to try again. I'm not keeping score, and I'm still showing up for them with patience, encouragement, and hope. And I have a feeling that God is a much better parent than I am. Definitely. So maybe he isn't standing over my breakfast with a clipboard. Maybe he isn't disappointed because I forgot my supplement. Maybe he isn't frustrated because I had a hard week. Maybe he's simply inviting me toward wisdom. The same way a loving father teaches a child to walk, one step, then another, one ordinary day at a time. I've spent a lot of years looking for dramatic healing, dramatic stories. They're exciting, they're inspiring, and they make headlines, they go viral. But most of life isn't dramatic. Most of life is ordinary. And that's actually where I found the greatest peace. I found peace kneading bread dough, and I found peace watering herbs, and I found peace reading scriptures, and I found peace just sitting quietly while everyone else is asleep. I found peace driving home after football practice while listening to my children laugh about something I don't even understand, honestly. I promise you, they've got like this whole new teen lingo. Maybe I did it to my parents. I don't remember, but I probably did. We probably all do. Anyways, I found peace in family dinners that lasted longer than expected because everyone was enjoying being together. And in sunsets that I almost missed, doing the dishes and looking out the window, and you see the sun and you're just grateful that you got to be there in that moment just to feel the warmth of the beauty. I I found peace in prayers that did not change my circumstances, but somehow changed me. There was a season when I thought healing meant getting my old life back. I feel like multiple versions of my life. Like I said, I have 7 kids. I'm raising a blended family. Between the ages of 2 13-year-olds and a 25-year-old, I've got 4 boys and 3 girls. I've got my Great Dane. I've got my husband. But honestly, he's my second. I have gone through a divorce. 13 years of marriage, divorce, remarried, brought in 3 new children, then another, and now here I am. Healing is not in returning to my 20-year-old self. No. 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 Now I know better. Peace is not waiting for me somewhere in the future, and it's also not in my past. It's sitting beside me at the dinner table. It's walking with me through the neighborhood with my Great Dane Roxy on her leash. It's waiting for me on the front porch when I sit in the rocking chair appreciating my herbs that are growing. It's already there. If I'll slow down long enough to notice, I know there are people watching this who are carrying invisible grief, Maybe your diagnosis isn't getting better. Maybe it's been 20 years for you and you are in a wheelchair. My heart is with you. Maybe you've prayed and prayed and nothing has changed. Maybe you've done everything right and you're still hurting. If that's your story, I want to be very careful with your heart because I never want you to hear me say, if you just try harder, you'll heal. Mm-mm, no, that's not what I believe. I've watched too many faithful people suffer. I've watched too many wonderful families carry impossible burdens. I've watched too many mothers blame themselves for things they never caused. And I don't believe that's where hope lives. Hope isn't pretending that suffering doesn't exist, and hope is deciding that suffering doesn't get the final word. Your value has never depended on your symptoms. Your worth has never depended on your lab work. Your purpose has never depended on how much energy you have today. You are not more lovable on the days you feel strong. You are not less worthy on the days that you need help. You're not failing because your body requires gentleness. You are human. Hear me. I am too. We're human. And I think that we have forgotten how to be human. We've become experts at optimizing, tracking, measuring, improving, comparing, but we've forgotten how to simply sit around a table with people that we love, to eat slowly and to pray gratefully and to laugh freely and to rest without apologizing, to go outside without bringing our phones and to notice the birds singing and to smell the bread baking, to watch children growing, to let ordinary Tuesdays be enough. Maybe that's why I'm making today's video. Not because I have a perfect system, but because I'm learning something I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. You can build a beautiful life inside of an imperfect body. Not someday, and not after every symptom disappears, not after every question is answered. No, now, today, right here, on this Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026 at 1:23 p.m. Now, today, one ordinary day at a time. And if I'm honest, I'm trying to be honest in this video. I think that's what I've really been searching for all along. Not the perfect diet, not the perfect supplement, not even perfect health. I've been searching for permission to stop living in fear long enough to actually enjoy the life that God has already given me. And slowly, very slowly, I'm learning to receive it. There are some things that multiple sclerosis has taken from me. I won't pretend otherwise. I'm not going to. It has impacted me. It has robbed me of some things. There have been days that I couldn't think clearly, that I couldn't see clearly, days that my body felt heavy, days I canceled plans because I was so overwhelmed with pain or fatigue. There's days I wondered if anyone really understood what it felt like to live inside of my own skin. I don't want to romanticize suffering. It's hard. Sometimes it's lonely and sometimes it's frustrating and sometimes it feels unfair. But if I'm being honest, there are things it has given me too. It taught me to stop rushing through my children's childhood. It taught me that dinner around the table is never wasted time. It taught me that a slow walk can be holy and a time to connect with my creator. It taught me that sitting on the porch with my husband after a long day is sometimes more important than finishing another project. And it taught me that health isn't measured only by lab results. It's measured by whether you still notice beauty. Do you? Whether you still laugh, whether you still believe tomorrow is worth showing up for, whether you still choose love over fear. I've started asking myself different questions, not how much did I get done today, but did I notice my life today? Did I hear my daughter's story instead of planning tomorrow? Did I thank God for something ordinary? Did I step outside? Did I nourish myself? Did I forgive myself? Did I hug someone a little bit longer? Did I sit long enough to remember that I'm already living the life I used to pray for? Because there was a 21-year-old version of me who didn't know if she would ever see 40. She didn't know if she would see her children grow up. She didn't know if she would be able to stand in the kitchen making bread. She didn't know if she would be able to host a Bible study with a group of 20 people every Sunday. Are you kidding me? She didn't know if she would laugh with her friends after church. She didn't know if she would even be able to walk out of the building without a wheelchair. She didn't know if she would plant herbs in the spring and harvest tomatoes in the summer. And she didn't know if she would watch Perry play football games. Perry's my youngest son. Or be able to have family movie nights downstairs in the family room. She only knew fear. And sometimes I wish I could sit by her, my 20-year-old self. I wouldn't bring her research papers, and I wouldn't bring her a supplement schedule, and I wouldn't bring a perfect meal plan. I think I would just hold her hand and I would say, don't miss this life. Don't spend years grieving a future that hasn't happened. Look at your baby. Look at your mom sitting beside you. Take a deep breath. There are beautiful years waiting for you. Not perfect years, beautiful ones. I think that's what I want to say to you too. Whatever brought you here, don't miss your life. Don't postpone joy until your diagnosis changes. Don't postpone laughter until you lose weight. Don't postpone rest until everything is finished. Don't postpone peace until every question has an answer. Life is happening while we're waiting for life to begin. And I know that's easier to say than to live. There are still mornings when fear quietly knocks at my door. Often, there are still days I notice symptoms and my mind immediately starts writing stories with a terrible ending. There are still moments where I wonder what the future holds, but I've learned something powerful. I don't have to answer every fearful thought that asks for my attention. Sometimes I simply notice it, smile, say a quiet prayer, and come back to today, back to breakfast, back to folding towels, back to watering the garden, reading my scriptures, and back to sitting across the table from people I love, and back to the life that God actually gave me instead of the future that fear keeps inventing. I've also realized something else. The internet is very good at making us feel like we are behind, that we are missing out, that we are behind in our health, behind in our parenting, behind in our marriages, behind in our careers, behind in our faith, our homes, our healing, always chasing a version of ourselves that doesn't exist. But I don't think God is asking me to become someone else. He's not asking you either. I think He's teaching me to believe in myself and become more fully present as the woman He already created, to receive ordinary gifts with gratitude and to care for this body that I'm already in with kindness, to feed it, to rest, to strengthen it, to listen to it. Not because it's perfect, but because it's been carrying me every single day of my life. And when I choose to listen to it, I'm choosing to believe that I'm worth it. When I chose the name You Are Worth It Health as my website and as my channel theme, it wasn't because I thought everyone would someday become perfectly healthy. It was because I desperately needed to believe something myself, that I am worth it, that I'm worth nourishing still, even though I have multiple sclerosis, still worth resting, still worth feeding, still worth slowing down, still worth hope and joy, and still worth love. And so are you. I promise you are. If today all you have is enough strength to make one good choice, make one choice that matters. Drink the water, eat the meal, take the walk, read the scriptures, call the friend, step outside, sit in the sunshine. Take one deep breath. Then tomorrow, I want you to do it again. I'm serious. One ordinary day at a time, because I've learned something beautiful over the last 20 years. Extraordinary lives are rarely built by extraordinary moments. They're built by ordinary faithfulness. One breakfast, one prayer, one conversation, one family dinner, one walk, one loaf of bread, one sunset, one act of kindness, one ordinary day at a time. And somehow those ordinary days become a beautiful life. Fear spent years trying to convince me my best days were already behind me. God has spent those same years quietly proving that fear was wrong. It was wrong. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. We've been at this for looks like about 45 minutes. That's a long time to spend with someone you've probably never met. And maybe you found this video because you have MS. Maybe you do have multiple sclerosis, or you're caring for someone who does, or maybe you have another autoimmune disease. They tend to overlap. We know. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe your thyroid isn't cooperating. I'm dealing with that right now with one of my kids. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're carrying something that has absolutely nothing to do with your health or your body. Whatever brought you here, I'm grateful that you stayed because I want to leave you with one last conversation. Not one last lesson, but an actual conversation. I've noticed something over the years when people ask me what supplements I take or what I eat or what do I avoid or how often I exercise or what I think about this study or that article or, different things. Like those are good questions. They're important questions. But I don't think that they've ever been the deepest questions. The deepest question sounds to me more like this: Will I be okay? Will my family be okay? Will I ever feel like myself again? Or will I always be this tired? Or will I always be afraid? Those are the questions that follow us into the quiet. They sit beside us in waiting rooms and they ride home with us after appointments. They wake us up at 2 in the morning and they sit with us while we fold laundry and wash dishes and make dinner. And I wish I could sit across from every single person watching this video with no camera, no lights, no microphone, just two people, you and me, sitting at a kitchen table. I wish I could sit with you and pour you a glass of water and cut you a warm piece of bread. And before we talked about nutrition or inflammation or routines or supplements, I would simply ask, how are you? Really? Because I think a lot of us have become very good at answering. Yours would probably be what mine often is. How are you really? I'm fine. I'm fine when what that really means is I'm tired. I'm scared. I'm trying. I'm carrying more than anyone realizes. That's often what I'm fine means. For years, I thought strength meant that I needed to push harder and ignore symptoms, pretending that I wasn't overwhelmed or keeping everything together. Now, I think strength looks a lot different. Strength looks like asking for help. Strength looks like taking a nap when your body needs one. Strength looks like saying no when you need to say no. Strength looks like making breakfast even when you don't feel like it. Strength looks like showing up imperfectly instead of just disappearing completely. And strength looks like choosing hope on an ordinary Tuesday like today. I've also stopped believing that healing only happens inside of a doctor's office. Please hear me carefully. I believe medicine matters, and I believe research matters, and I believe physicians, nurses, therapists, and scientists dedicate their lives to helping people, and I am deeply, grateful to them. But I've also discovered that in places, it, healing exists in places that no prescription ever sent me. I found it around the dinner table. I found it kneading bread with my mother. I found it pulling weeds in the garden. I found it reading scriptures and connecting with God. I have found healing and laughter. Laughing so hard that my family that I forgot to think about the symptoms for a while. I found healing sitting on the porch after the sun goes down and realizing that nothing on my to-do list matters more than the people sitting around me. And those moments did not cure me, but they reminded me of something. They reminded me that I'm still alive. And sometimes remembering that you're still fully alive is its own kind of healing. There was a season when I believed that my body was keeping me from living. And now I see that completely different. My body has carried me through every single chapter of my story. It's carried me through my pregnancies and through my fears and through my sleepless nights, through heartbreak and through joy. It's carried me through ordinary moments and really, really scary moments. I have gone through some hard stuff. I really have. You may not guess it to see me. I have a great life. I've been very blessed, but I've also gone through some hard stuff. Have you? Yes. I can't hear your answer, but I know it's yes, because my hard life is not really unique. Your body is carrying you, just like my body is carrying me, every day, one day at a time. And just like it never stopped carrying me, it also was never betraying me. Maybe it was doing the very best it could every single day. And maybe that is true for you too. So tonight, before you go to bed, I hope you'll do something that feels almost too simple. Put your hand over your heart. Take one slow breath. And instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Don't do that. Try asking, how can I care for this body that's been carrying me this far every day? Maybe the answer is sleep. Maybe the answer is nourishment. Maybe it's movement or stillness or prayer or forgiveness. Maybe it's calling someone you love. Maybe it's finally believing that you don't have to earn rest before you take a break. Because I don't think our bodies are projects waiting to be perfected. I think they're gifts entrusted to us, gifts that deserve kindness, patience, nourishment, gifts that deserve grace. I've realized over the last 20 years that fear and gratitude cannot comfortably live in the same moment. Every time I stop long enough to thank God for something ordinary, like the smell of bread or the sound of laughter, the sunlight through the kitchen window, we keep talking about it. Children's voices, herbs growing outside, that quiet peace that comes in the morning when we see the sunrise and read our scriptures. Fear loses a little bit of its power. Not all at once, just enough for today and then tomorrow. I practice I practice again and again and again. Ordinary days, grateful days, peaceful days. If you never remember another word from this conversation, I hope you'll remember this. Your diagnosis is part of your story. It is not the author of your story. Your symptoms are real. Your questions are real. Your grief is real. But so is hope. So is joy. So is purpose. So is love. So is God quietly meeting us in the kitchens, in the gardens, in the waiting rooms, at family dinners, on ordinary Tuesday afternoons. 20 years ago, I walked out of a neurologist office believing I had lost my future. Today, I look around my home, at my family, at the bread, at the herbs, at the ordinary life I almost missed by worrying about tomorrow. And I realized something. Fear made promises it could never keep. God made promises he never broke. So tomorrow morning, wake up, open the curtains, take a deep breath, drink the water, eat the breakfast, step outside, read a few verses, and laugh if you can. Cry if you need to. Hug your family and take the next faithful step. And the day after that, I want you to do it again. One ordinary day at a time, because beautiful lives are rarely built in dramatic moments. They're built in kitchens, on porches, at dinner tables, in gardens, on quiet walks, in whispered prayers, and in thousands of small decisions to keep choosing hope. Thank you for sitting with me for a while. I honestly, I am honored that you've spent an hour with me. And wherever your journey leads you, I hope you never forget this truth. You can build a beautiful life inside of an imperfect body. You are worth nourishing, resting, hope, and love. Slow down. You are worth slowing down. You are worth beginning again every day. You always have been, and you always will be. I'll see you in the next one.